Reviews of Don't Bother to Knock were mixed. On the film's release in August 1952, many critics lauded Monroe's performance, touting the arrival of a new star. Many of the major reviewers of the day, however, all men, adopted a condescending tone, suggesting that despite the studio's attempts to foist her on the public as a genuine actress, Monroe needed much more refinement and coaching to have any hope of success. One can only imagine how painful it was for someone as insecure and vulnerable as Marilyn to read these snide and patronizing critiques. It sadly set the tone for the rest of her career, which would only last another 10 years. Filmmakers and the public loved what she brought to the screen, but there was always a certain segment of the cultural establishment that treated her only as a cartoon and a commodity, a fleshy amusement to be smugly exploited but never taken seriously. Director Roy Ward Baker described Monroe as delightful, but he also was the first of many directors exasperated by her need to have acting coach Natasha Lattès with her on set at all times. Baker believed rightly that he had the last word regarding Monroe's performance, and he demanded Lattès be barred from the set. Marilyn told Zanuck that if Lattès went, she went as well. A truce was brokered, but Marilyn's chronic tardiness, indecisiveness in playing scenes, and her need to regroup between takes drove Richard Widmark crazy, until he saw the rushes. Like many others to follow, including legends like Howard Hawks, Billy Wilder, and John Huston, Widmark realized that Marilyn's inexperience and unprofessional behavior was a small price to pay for what ended up on film. In the end, what the camera captured had little to do with technique. When a director evoked her natural talent and radiance, Marilyn was pure magic. Roy Baker only worked a few more years in Hollywood before returning to England, where he established himself as a specialist in sci-fi and horror, things like Quatermass and the Pit and The Vampire Lovers. Both terrific, by the way. Baker also directed quite a few episodes of my favorite TV series of all time, The Avengers, a British import that had a major impact on my childhood development. He died in 2010 at the age of 93, outliving the young star of his first Hollywood feature by 57 years. Next week, an audience favorite returns to Noir Alley. Robert Mitchum stars in Thunder Road from 1958, a picture he wrote, produced, and stars in with his son Jim. He even wrote a couple of songs for it. You don't want to miss it. And speaking of things you don't want to miss, later this month, from January 20th to the 29th, I'll be hosting the 20th anniversary of my Noir City Film Festival at the Grand Lake Theater in Oakland, California, which is where I am right now. Join me if you can for a 10-day feast of noir films, all from 1948, meaning every movie is celebrating its 75th anniversary. Check out the schedule and get more details at noircity.com. I'll try to save you a seat, but by now you should know that in noir, there are no promises. You got to act quick. Well, there is one thing I can promise. I will be back here next week, and I hope you'll join me again. See you in the shadows.